Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials. Welcome to the September 8, 2025 regular city council meeting. We are meeting at 26 South Paint Street, Chiillicothe, Ohio, and I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. Bennett.
Present.
Payne.
Here.
McCourt.
Here.
Barnes. McKeever. Dement.
Yes.
Preston. Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Here.
Ms. Preston and Mr. McKeever informed me that they would not be in attendance this evening. Is there a motion to excuse both of them from tonight's meeting? A motion by Ms. Payne, seconded by Mr. Dement, and the clerk will call the roll.
Bennett. Payne.
Yes.
McCourt.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Ms. Preston and Mr. McKeever are excused, and I would ask Ms. Bennett to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The minutes from the August 25, 2025 regular meeting have been distributed. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
President Shoemaker. At this time, can I make a motion to not read item number 2 on tonight's agenda?
Bless you. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Payne. The clerk will call the roll.
Bennett.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
McCourt.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
The motion is adopted. Back to the minutes. Are there any changes, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll relative to, is there a motion to accept the minutes? Motion by Ms. Payne, second by...
Excuse me. The minutes are do not have the vote from our last meeting for the amendment to 25-047. I think that needs to be noted.
With that, then, I'm going to accept that as a motion to amend the minutes, and we'll go ahead and put that information in because there was a vote taken. It was actually in written form as you presented it. Is there a second to amendment to the minutes? Second by Ms. Bennett. Clerk will call the roll relative to the amendment to the minutes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
McCourt.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
The minutes are amended, and we'll go back to a motion to accept the minutes now as amended. Ms. Payne, I'll accept your motion as it was presented earlier. Is there a second to that motion? Second, Mr. McCourt, and the clerk will call the roll.
Bennett.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
McCourt.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Dement.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Minutes are approved with the amendment, and we'll now move to reports of committees. Development Committee, Mr. Dement.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. Development has now 2 items on tonight's agenda. Item number 4, which is the first reading of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with the Ross County Board of Commissioners for a city-owned property located at 89 Riverside Street for the development of a new Hopewell Regional Visitor Center and declaring an emergency. And we also have item number 6, which is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the new Unified Development Code and repealing Part 11, Chapter 1321 and Chapter 1322 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chiillicothe, Ohio, pursuant to ORC Section 71307 through ORC Section 71312. Development Committee also held a second committee meeting where we discussed an agreement with Green Township and the City of Chiillicothe to share responsibilities for the creation, maintenance, operation, and utilities of a joint economic development district in exchange for tax revenue, economic benefits such as job creation, and further benefits that are certain to follow as the area expands with future development. And the committee unanimously passed that forward for future consideration by the Law Director's Office. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Engineering Committee, Ms. Dunn.
We have one item on the agenda tonight, and that's item number 1 for a third reading about amending Chapter 1151. That's all we have to report at this time.
Thank you. Finance and Technology Committee, Mr. Creed.
We had a committee meeting earlier this evening. We discussed 3 items. 25-072, this consideration of resurfacing options for Mulberry Street. We had a lot of discussion during that meeting, looking at options for pavers versus paving, the intersection versus the road. We did not come to a conclusion on that, looking for more information, so that one will continue on for another meeting. We had another meeting on 25-073, and this is on streaming of council committee meetings. And we feel that that has it's a viable thing that we need to do, but we need to look at how we do that, both with the technology that we have. We need to make some changes, and also personnel, make sure we have the right personnel here to do that as well. So that one is continued on for some future discussions as well. The last one was 25-074, and that's to accept the replacement of pages to Chiillicothe Codified Ordinances. And we will move that forward to the Law Director's Office, which takes me to the one item we have on the agenda. Item number 3 is an ordinance to approve replacement of those pages. That was sent an error from the Law Director's Office to Council Clerk, and at the appropriate time, I'll make a motion to have that removed from the agenda, and that'll be put back on once we go through the full process for that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Human Resources Committee, Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. I do not have a report this evening. However, we do have a new assignment, and it's 25-075, and it's an ordinance to authorize and guide the use of project labor agreements. And I would like to have the first meeting on that September 22nd at 6 o'clock here in Council Chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Parks and Rec Committee, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. There is nothing on the agenda, and I have nothing new to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Preston isn't here for the Safety Service Committee, nor is Mr. McKeever here for the Utilities Committee. So unless someone has something to add, we'll move on from there. But if there's anything to add, Mr. Creed.
Just for Safety Service, just a note that I had, the fire department is having their memorial service this Thursday, September 11th at 8:30 a.m. in front of Station 1. All the public is welcome to that. This is to recognize our firefighters who have passed before us. So, like I said, all the public is welcome to that as well. Thanks.
Thanks for that information. We appreciate it. Now moving to City Services Committee, Mr. McQuirk.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. We have one ordinance on the agenda tonight. It's first reading an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of $1.2 million for the Roscoe Net non-emergency transportation service for the remainder of the calendar year 2025 and declaring an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Community Affairs Committee, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. We did have before the meeting at 6:30, Build a Home came and explained to us some of the things they've been doing for our community and nice positive things that they are doing for our homes. They're working with Judge Benson in helping families. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Now we'll move to reports of officials. Mayor Feeney.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. I want to start with last meeting. We talked a little bit about any information that I had to share from the Howmet site and the development of that in relation to Pixel. No information to share on Pixel. We're still being told that HIG is considering offers, and we believe that they have multiple offers for purchase. And so we're anxious to find out the outcome of those proposals. And I assume we'll know those things soon, but they're on their own deadline, so to say. So we'll report that information as soon as we have it, but I think that once it comes out, it'll be leaked to the public very quickly. With regard to Howmet, I'm not aware of anything that's changed in terms of the actual fact pattern, but we did have a good call with the EPA last week. The assistant director was on, 2 people from their legal department, gave me a better understanding of our being the state of Ohio and our community's legal position. We asked them to create some documents for us, which they've done, and I believe are here on the podium there. We'll have them up on Facebook tomorrow, but essentially an FAQ and a couple maps and that sort of thing that help, I think from my perspective, tell the history of the site as well as the procedural postures, some things that will help the community and government understand sort of where we are now and what we can expect to come next. I would describe the position that we're in now is that the EPA has communicated demands around not only sort of current monitoring, but plans for adjustment if and when the wells that are operated and owned by Pixel would stop operating. And so one of the main takeaways that I got from that meeting, which was referenced several times by their attorneys, is that they're very confident in the strength of the enforceable order that they have against First is Wherever, which continued on to Howmet. So I think that puts us in a good position for a positive outcome in the long run. On that note, the city has received a notice of violation from the EPA as well. I think I've mentioned before, we have quite a bit of ongoing communication with the EPA in several different fronts. So we have wastewater treatment facilities, we have the landfill that we monitor, and the landfill that we monitor, just for reference, I think I've talked about this before, but we had a 30-year obligation when the landfill closed to monitor that site. And over time, the EPA updates and changes the types of things and the ways that monitoring happened. And so around 2020, we entered into a new agreement to continue long-term monitoring of the landfill. This is up on Seney Road. Around 2021, 2022, some administrative rules changed, and they asked us to give them a plan for how we would adjust the ways, the methodology, and the physical ways that we monitor explosive gases. We sent them a proposal, we being the consultants that we hire that continue to do our monitoring, sent them a proposal. That proposal was rejected, and we never sent them a proposal back saying, okay, we're modifying our proposal to basically do it the way you want us to. These are things like, we have continued to monitor these things, but they've asked us to do it in a different way, is the best way I can describe it in layperson's terms. There's one piece of monitoring that we do with a technique that they want us to update. And so we've gone back to the consultant and said, please update the counter proposal, which the consultant actually did for us several years ago. It just never got to the EPA. Basically saying, this is what we're proposing. I think there were 4 comments that the EPA said, please update so that your monitoring methodology matches our new administrative rules. The consultant has redrafted those, and they'll be sent back to the EPA. Once the EPA approves those, it's likely that we'll have an upfront cost, probably new drilling of wells, or I'm sorry, not wells, but monitoring, dropping the word here, but they basically have to drill down in specific areas to do different type of monitoring than what we're doing now. there'll be an upfront cost in that, and then going forward, we would continue to monitor these explosive gases in the same way that we do now, or that we are doing, just with a different methodology. And so that's a notice that we got, I think, late last week. And then just one more update for the public. It's exciting, but it won't seem exciting. Our ACGP construction is starting this week, but it's going to be paving, and it's going to be the same company that usually does our paving. So it's going to seem like it's a part of our standard paving program. But the Appalachian Community Grant Project construction is starting this week. It'll start on Wednesday. It'll start on Riverside Street with milling and paving. That's day one. I think day two we'll get to Water Street. And I think day three would be Friday. I think we get to Yuctangi. And so that's milling and paving. As everybody knows, there's still some outstanding questions about the expense of milling and paving or relaying brick on Mulberry Street. And we've asked the construction folks for some alternatives there because, in my opinion, I don't think anybody wants to get rid of the brick. It's just that when the expense is so high, sometimes it doesn't remain practical. And so we're asking them about the cost of actually physically or hand removing the brick. So it's potentially the actual brick could be reused instead of ordering new brick and that sort of thing. So we can have the best information for council to make that decision. But I think we're looking at a price difference of about $300,000 for that single block of Mulberry for brick versus paving. And there might be some other ways that we could use that money better in this project. So I will keep council updated on all those matters. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll turn to Auditor Spetnagel.
I do not have anything on the agenda tonight, but I do want to announce a budget review meeting for the 22nd at 6:30. And that will be a great start off for the budget as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. The law director contacted me today. The office did and let me know that she would not be able to be here tonight. So there's no report from the law director this evening. So we'll move on to audience participation. Any person wishing to address the council must first provide his or her name and address. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes, and I'll give you a warning when there is 1 minute remaining.
Hi, Natalie Baldwin, 145 South Payne Street, downtown Chiillicothe, Ohio. I owe most of you 5 minutes of your life back, so I promise I will be brief. First, I wanted to just reiterate that permitting veterinary offices as a conditional use, especially in spaces that, like the C4 district, that was previously a permitted use, would give existing structures another potential use, would encourage startup businesses consistent with the purpose of the downtown enterprise district, would integrate with owner-occupied housing and be of benefit to those residents, would be consistent with the established land use, especially where there are multiple medical facilities from your primary care physicians to dentists, would not adversely alter the population density pattern any more than currently permitted uses, such as medical offices, restaurants, coffee houses, and hair salons, particularly since most patients would be seen by appointment, and Chiillicothe requires veterinary facilities to have parking spaces. It also may reduce strain on existing natural environment, given the stray cat population downtown. I might be able to help with that a little bit. And would meet the objectives of the comprehensive plan by broadening the range of permitted uses of existing buildings. And most of these suggestions were actually brought up by the zoning and planning meeting last January-ish, I guess. Jamie and Kevin, I believe, these are actually words out of their mouths, so that's just a reiteration. One thing I wanted to say was this whole thing about the whole veterinary hospital downtown has dragged me into your world, and I never had any idea how much effort you all put into this city, and that is just, I just thank you. Like, that is just wild. What you guys do is amazing. And then seeing that you started this meeting today with 13 meetings before this is, wow. So kudos to you guys for your patience, your dedication. I mean, that's just amazing. Two other things. One day I realized that if Bridge Street had all of the side streets, since apparently somebody brought up this was going to be another 2 years because I just don't drive on Bridge Street. just no turn on red signs on literally all the other streets to keep people from turning right on red might actually help a lot. I don't know if that's a thing that you can do. It's magic. And then my other thought was on the water thing that we're talking about here is that, one of the ideas is that, well, we need to really kind of make this more public and increase interest, because unless it's actually happening to people with checkbooks, typically it just sort of gets hidden under a rock somewhere and people kind of just go, oh, I don't see anything. But that whole downstream thing, that's our neighbors, right? I mean, it's just like when you get sick, we don't care too much about having to help people with being sick, but if they get sick, then I get sick. So suddenly it's my concern. So, maybe making this more public is literally going down all the towns that are going to be affected by the downstream runoff and getting them really involved, media-wise. So that's it. Yay!
Thank you.
My name is Jason Sally, live at 194 Marvin Drive, Chiillicothe. I'm sure by now most of you know who I am. Many years ago I was in Miss Payne's class at Smith Middle School, many, many years ago. So we're all kind of dating ourselves at this moment.
Well, we're certainly dating Ms. Payne.
I apologize. She was my favorite teacher. I will put that on there. But all jokes aside, I'm here to bring a serious issue. Every time I've come to City Council, I've brought a serious issue. 2023, I told the story of my niece being shot in a triple shooting. And then I came back with solutions and ideas. Unfortunately, both times I was here, City Council completely ignored everything I said. So I imagine today will be the same. But with that being said, I want to show and introduce everybody to the chicken bucket. This was one of Wherever's last products before they shut down. My uncle worked there from 1959 until the time it shut down, and I like to think that maybe his hands, helped put some of this together or worked on this. But the reality is, in 2015, he died from COPD. I never understood how a man who was all about health and fitness and never smoked could die from COPD. In 1959, he was in the National Guard. He was on the front lines in Chiillicothe when the flood came through and ravaged this city. He was there sandbagging, pulling people from homes, rescuing them. He was also a race car driver, loved racing stock cars at Atomic Speedway. He was one of those man, those John Wayne types. And I never could understand how he could just waste away and die the way he did. It wasn't until I started looking into his medical records that I started seeing things mentioned such as benzene, Teflons. In fact, his medical record right here says this gentleman is retired from Wherever Corporation in Chiillicothe, Ohio, and the patient reports being exposed to chemicals throughout the years. I never knew how toxic that site was until I started doing my own investigation, started digging into it. And being a journalist, I dug deep and discovered how toxic that site was and still is. And how for 30 years, it's been left to puddle cancer under our streets. 3 years ago, I began this journey, discovered how dirty Wherever was, and also learned that Chiillicothe is not the only town that's ever been affected by the owners of Wherever. Alcoa. Google, make that your homework tonight. Google Alcoa and see how they have affected and polluted and contaminated every single town they have a facility at. Also international, look what they're doing in Australia right now. They're corporate polluters. They come, they use, they leave. 3 years ago, as I started beginning this investigation, I reached out to you, Mayor Feeney. In fact, I have a copy of the email, actually the multiple emails I sent you, asking what would happen if that toxic plume started shifting and got into the wastewater treatment plant. Would there be new chemical treatment processes that would be needed to handle an influx of nasty chemicals? You know what the answer was? Crickets. Nothing. I'm glad you mentioned the city dump tonight and the EPA violation, because I was going to bring that up tonight and see if council had been made aware of that. Because that dump is also another toxic site in Chiillicothe. How many people from the 80s remember the legal battle when it was shut down? How many of you know about the hazardous chemicals from DuPont that was dumped there? From 1974 to 1979, 6,500 tons of hazardous waste were put into our landfill. And at the time, the city of Chiillicothe must have said, oh, that's fine. On top of all the other nasty stuff there, that's the reason why it has to be monitored. On top of being a landfill, all landfills have to be monitored, but this site is extra toxic. And it's not the only one. This city is full of old toxic sites. Some have been cleaned, some questionable. How many folks here know about the old chemical factory on Washington Avenue? Anybody remember that one? And the 2 sludge lagoons that were literally a stone's throw from the entrance to Mary Lou Patton Park. Anybody know about the stuff they had there? Sulfuric acid mixed with bauxite.
1 minute.
Very toxic.
Go ahead.
Oh, I got 1 minute?
Go ahead.
Well, I'll make this real quick, because the point of this is I'm calling City Council to do a full epidemiological study of Chiillicothe and how these toxic sites have affected the cancer rates in this community. Real quick, I want to hit these cancer rates. Chiillicothe, these are from the 2025 Ohio Health Department. 19% of new cancer cases in Chiillicothe, or in Ross County, excuse me, and 29.3% of deaths is lung and bronchial cancer. So often, people want to blame smoking as the cause of cancer. As Mr. Shoemaker spoke up, President Shoemaker, that's also what they like to say in Pike County as the cause of all the cancer rates down there, not the giant atomic plant that was there with the radiation. They like to say smoking is the cause. Well, smoking is a cause of lung cancer, but not the only one. Things such as, I don't know, TCE, arsenic, heavy metals, vinyl chloride, dioxin, benzene, aluminum oxide, all those can cause lung cancer. Those are chemicals that have been found throughout Chiillicothe at various sites, from wherever, to the old CSX railroad that we end up taking part of that and turning it into the transit depot and left the back half of it. We have all these toxic sites that have put out so much chemicals. Let's look at some of the other cancers. Pancreatic cancer, 8.3% of cancer deaths in Ross County come from pancreatic cancer. That can also be linked to heavy metals and dioxin, which was a big pollutant over the years coming from the paper plant. It's well documented. These are all chemicals that have been found in soil, air, water in Ross County and Chiillicothe, and specifically in the East End. These are not numbers, these are lives, these are families, and I know this is election year, but people of this community are watching to see how this council handles the toxic messes and the legacy from those, and whether or not you're going to find out if they're linked to the cancer problems we have in this county. We have some of the highest cancer rates in the state of Ohio and nationally. We're behind Piketon, but not by much. I'm asking this council to see what connection there is, because there's so many toxic places. Has anyone ever tested Mary Lou Patton Park, the groundwater, the soil, to see if there's any carcinogens or chemicals from either wherever, the old city dump that was also on Rennick Avenue and the old lime pit that's over there by where the water treatment plant is, or the old chemical factory? Has anybody ever tested that? Where kids play? My kids played there. I say all this because I know most of these old toxic problems never fell on the lap of this council or this mayor. They was inherited. But this council and this mayor may very well deal with a monster toxic mess right down the road if nobody buys it and cleans it up. I understand Crow secession of regular operations. I understand that. We've seen that played out other places and still have a mess.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. People are watching. Time for a count.
Ronnie Rutherford, 3302 Falls Road, Bainbridge. I'm here in opposing the transition of the building on Walnut Street into a veterinarian's clinic. Because if it happens and they change the legislation or whatever the wording would be, then anything in that area can change. It won't just be that building. It could be any building in the downtown area. Am I correct in that? That's what I've been told.
It is, will become part of the new unified
So anywhere.
commercial. Anywhere with restrictions. There
have
are
restrictions now.
guidelines that are outlined in it has to be approved. They have to be under certain guidelines and so on and so forth.
And we have restrictions now. Why aren't they okay?
Well, this was specifically for veterinarians' offices.
One thing I want you to do is, before you vote on this, is take into consideration the people that have spent money already, considerable amounts of money in these areas, before you vote to change that.
What exactly is the fear for a veterinarian's clinic in the downtown area that does not board animals? Tell me
Filth.
what the difference
Filth.
is if they're
Traffic.
following state
Noise.
and local codes.
Yeah, it's there. Will it be followed? Who knows?
Well, I think we have things in place when people violate the laws.
We do?
I believe we do.
Okay.
The state will enforce certain things in and of themselves too. It's pretty strict with medical offices of any type. So
Pretty weak.
I'm sorry, what do you mean weak?
It's pretty weak what you're trying to do. The people that own the property in the area are opposed to this.
Not all the people in that area are. We've had numerous people come in from the area and come before council, like we do with any other changes that have been done with the code. It's been studied, it's been looked at from
people
all.
that own property? Or
Yes.
Are they just people that
Yes,
kinda
they are
hang
people
out
who own property.
and try to be do-gooders?
I'm not certain what you mean by do-gooders, but I'm just going to say that, like any other business in the downtown area, there are always issues. In this particular case, I'm not sure what your point is. So if you want to clarify that, then I'm fine with that.
Opposed to the bringing in the veterinarian clinic in the area with the animals coming and going. That's the opposition.
Okay. Do you think that we should outlaw pets being allowed to be brought into the downtown area as well?
No.
Okay. I guess
My wife brings the dog to work every day. Not every day, but a lot.
We've got a minute left.
The question comes then is, do we ban animals of all types in the downtown area?
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, you say bringing animals into the downtown area. They are in the
veterinarian
downtown
clinic.
area with a lot of the residents in the
veterinarian
downtown.
clinic, which is an overexposure to one central area.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm GR Kaltenbach, and I'm going to keep this really short because I know this is already super weird. I'm very, very aware that it's weird. That's kind of the fun part, because when things are really hard in life, you got to have some fun. You just have to like mess around and have some fun. So that's what this is. It's not meant to be anything more than to protect our own sanity in these insane times. But I know that you guys may be up against power bigger than you when it comes to corporations and when it comes to Howmet. But I want you to empathize with the rest of us who are up against, and we don't want to be you as well. And we don't want to have that. But I just want people to think very clearly about all of the interacting issues that are happening in our town right now that I have watched our city council. I I have a thing written I'm going to pull out of my pocket one day, but I just want to see Chiillicothe be a better, healthier place. And if it takes some absurdity, I'm very willing to do that. And I hope some of you are willing to partake in the absurdity as well to make your town better. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jamie Brown, 98 Douglas Avenue. Howmet made $7.4 billion in 2024. My wife and I, we made, I think it was like 88 when you take out health care cost tax deductions. I'm going to tell you a story. This is a fake story, but it's a fun one to listen to. I thought it would be great if we could get one of the, I was driving down 23 South, so one of those nice little Amish sheds. You know what I'm talking about? The cute ones. A lot of people use them for their chicken coops. I thought that would be such a great place to play my drums. They're really annoying in the basement. We got a baby on the way. I'm going to put one in my backyard. So I called up, and in this story, I live in a city that says, Jamie, before you do that, we're going to send out the EPA, and they're going to do an environmental study on your backyard before you do anything like that. So the EPA came out. This is a story. This is not real, but in this story, the EPA came out, and they said, Jamie, Stephanie, come out here. And they pointed straight down in the ground. They said, there is a toxic plume underneath your house. And I said, but I didn't do it. I bought it that way. And they said, that doesn't matter. The responsibility goes with ownership. And I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? And they said, well, we're going to want you to sequester as much as you can. We'll send scientists out and we'll give you recommendations. But we think in the meantime, we think you ought to put 4 observation wells so that your neighbors and your community can be sure that you're monitoring this. And I turned to the EPA and I said, I'll give you 2. So we made like a little under $90,000. Insane in that story. How far do you think I get with 2 out of 4? How far do I get? We're going to sit in that awkwardness, right? They made $7.4 billion. I made a little under 90. I don't think I get that far. If the EPA told me 4 wells and then all this sequestering advice, my neighbors, Mr. Dement lives right behind me, rightfully would say, what the hell are you doing? Put those 4 wells in there. Get that shit out of the ground. Listen to the experts. I don't have the governor's phone number. Maybe Howmet doesn't, but they have $7.4 billion. That's just in 1 year. That was in 2024. That was 12% higher than the previous year of profit, which was 2 years of historic profit. We made a little under 90. Was over that, but you get the deductions for the healthcare costs. I'm just going to take the full 5 minutes because I think that awkwardness just needs to set in, you know? $7.4 billion. I think there is something up. I think there's a difference between me and Howmet. I will say it was fun to read some of the comments on social media. I don't think it'll surprise you. Some people are afraid of us goofy folks. Oh my God, how could you let them in there? They're going to hurt you. There's no toxic plume, as I hope. I hope there's no toxic plume under my house. And if there was, I would hope and pray that you folks would hold me accountable and help and pitch in and I don't know, $7.4 billion. The sign says they can afford 4 wells. I don't know what these monitoring wells cost, But $7.4 billion, there's that anecdote that goes around in terms of like understanding time. I won't rehash it because I don't want to get it wrong, but I just TikTok it or Google it or Facebook it, whatever you're doing, just time analogy in billions. It's nuts. The 4 wells, it can be done. I don't think it's a cost issue. I think if they were to ask me for 4 and I said 2, and I had $7.4 billion, it wouldn't be because I didn't want the extra cost of 2 wells. It would be, maybe I would be worried about what 2 extra wells monitoring pollution in the soil and water and air might do. If I had 2, it might be less. Not worried about the money.
Got a minute.
A minute. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you that one. Thanks.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Ed Waltz, 25 Timber Lane Drive, Chiillicothe, and we've lived here a little over 4 years, and we live here because we chose this city out of over 15 that we lived in prior to coming here. This goes long back. I could give you all kind of stories about why we chose Chiillicothe. And since we're here, we'd like to make it a better place. And we can make it a better place if we get the veterinary clinic downtown where it's needed. Matter of fact, it's needed in all of Ross County. Ross County is very low on the percentage of population compared to the number of veterinarians. Matter of fact, Ohio ranks the bottom 16th of the United States in density of veterinary offices. The gentleman that was up here that decided that veterinary offices are not a good thing needs to be educated. I don't know who he is, but I would, if I could, I would like to meet with him and engage in deeper conversation about what he's saying and what we, Dr. Natalie, my son Andy, my wife Bernice, that we would like to educate him as to the real factors here. I don't know where he was getting his stuff, but I just could only shake my head. But I'd love to have the opportunity to meet with him one-on-one or 3-on-1 or whatever, and take him through what we know is going to be the great situation for having a veterinary clinic here. It's badly needed by the city because of convenience, and also will be a significant taxpayer to the city. And I think right now that is needed. But that's probably about all I have to say. And most of you heard us the other night. And so I won't repeat all that, but appreciate if somebody will give us contact to that gentleman that was here. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no further, I spoke too soon.
You know I love to hear myself talk. My name is AJ Tainer. I live at 81 North Paint Street, apartment 2B. In regards to the gentleman who was against the veterinary clinic, I may not be a land or property owner in that area, but I do live in right in downtown above the Shanks Bakery and Boba. I do not believe that having a veterinary clinic downtown would do anything to increase filth, noise, or traffic. Possibly traffic. We could always use more parking downtown, but that's a separate issue. As for filth and noise, I do not see how having animals going anywhere can be any worse than events like Sand in the Streets or the Kenworth Truck Parade or any of the thousands of events that we hold downtown that is good for, quite honestly, everybody down there. I just felt like that needs to be something that everybody hears and has on record. No one, we might not want to step in dog shit, but I don't know about you. I walk to where I put my feet, so if you somehow still step in it, I feel like there's a couple other things that needs to be addressed. I just felt like that's something everybody needs to hear and have on their mind in addition to that.
Thank you.
I'll be super quick. My name is Tana Sidrus. I live at 415 Lundbeck Road. And I'm just reminding you guys that Coffee with Council is this Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30 at Roast Coffee again. And that is all.
Thank you.
I'm just going to pop into, clearly I'm like with the group about the plume, but I did live near, my name is Stone Johnson, 29 North Brownell. I lived near a veterinary clinic, and I also am very confused about what he means by pollution as far as noise and filth. We didn't have any of those issues, and I was like 50 feet away. There was an occasional noise issue, but it wasn't actually an issue because it was fine. So I'm also confused about that. Put that.
Thank you.
Peter Weezar, 840 East Main Street, just in Chiillicothe. About the vet. If we don't have a vet, I mean, we're already looking at cuts to healthcare. We're looking at cuts to the Veterans Hospital that's going to be coming up. What else do we got? So, as long as it's going to help promote downtown, who cares if there's a few dogs? Maybe I'll get the pet one. And then also to the water and the EPA. I think we've seen CDC get gutted and departments collapsing. And are we really going to trust the federal government to do right by us? Like, we should be advocating for ourselves. We should be, keeping ourselves healthy. We should be doing everything we can to hold the companies accountable. Yeah, they have some expertise. Yeah, they're helping us out, but we shouldn't be relying on that because that can go away in, what has it been, 8 months? So I'd like to see more happen, that we are the ones driving and not the EPA that's driving. So, yep. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other audience well, there is. Excuse me.
Hold on, sorry. I can't breathe. My name is Stephanie Renner. I live at 98 Douglas Avenue. I did just have a quick question. I was under the impression that the EPA meeting would include public, but that didn't end up being the case. So I'm curious if there'll be an opportunity for that or why the public wasn't included.
I can just answer that real quick. There is a fact sheet from the EPA as far as what's going on down at Howmet, and there is a phone number and an email, I believe, on there for a point of contact. We continue to look for a public meeting and have asked for that. So we're continuing to try to get that. And EPA they are far more knowledgeable on this than any of us sitting at this table. So we're really relying on them to help guide us through this process. But please take one of those pamphlets up there. And like I said, there is a number and an email on there for a point of contact at the EPA if you have additional questions, because by no means are any of us here experts. So we're working through this the same as you guys are.
If there's no more audience participation, we'll move on to old business. Mr. Creed.
President Shoemaker, I would like to make a motion to remove item number 3 from the agenda since it was sent from the law director's office in error and has not been through the committee I've not submitted a legislative request form for that.
Second by Mr. Dement. The clerk will call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne, I'm so,
Yes.
yes. McCourt,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Item number 3 is removed from the agenda. Is there any further old business? Mr. Creed?
I am going to make a motion that we amend item number 1 to what was read last time, with the addition, we left off that there be 100 square foot of space for the dogs to be able to go outside. So the actual section is under conditional uses, and it states outdoor exercise of medically boarded animals shall be permitted only under direct supervision of veterinary clinic staff and on a substrate appropriate to the area, and a minimum of 100 square feet that can be maintained to control odors and prevent spread of disease. No animal shall be permitted outside of the buildings between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And a copy of this entire section has been given to the clerk of courts, or clerk of council.
I'll second that.
And that is to amend item 1 on the agenda, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And there is a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll relative to the amendment.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Item 1 is amended. Any further old business this time? Move on to petitions and correspondence. I think the information that you have is that's there on the podium is information that we got from the Ohio EPA. It's not the federal EPA, it's the Ohio EPA. And I would just make a statement to everybody here. I assure you that the conversations with everybody that were on those calls was to push the Ohio EPA to make sure that they were doing everything to monitor and to make sure that they move forward in a direction that folks could understand. However, once again, there's been a request to have a public meeting, and we will continue to push that. But there is also that contact information, so feel free to contact them directly. They suggested that they would put that information on there, so you should take full advantage of it. Is there any other petitions or correspondence to come before council?
Thank you, President Shoemaker. I have not received anything.
Is there any new business to come before council? Hearing none, we'll move to the reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, President Shoemaker. This evening we have 5 items on the agenda, with one of those being not read. Item number 1 is a third reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 1151 DE, Downtown Enterprise District, of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chiillicothe.
That ordinance having just been amended, I want to make sure everybody understands that we're voting now on the amended ordinance, and the clerk will call the roll.
Bennett,
No.
Payne,
No, I'm not in favor of amending this ordinance.
McCourt,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted. The next ordinance or next resolution.
Item number 2 is not read. Item number 3 is the first reading of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with the Ross County Board of Commissioners for city-owned property located at 89 Riverside Street, parcel number 305-401-023600, for the development of a new Hopewell Regional Visitors Center and declaring an emergency.
The ordinance will move to the next agenda. Next ordinance.
Item number 4 is the first reading of an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of $1,200,000 for the Roscoe Net Non-Emergency Transportation Service for the remainder of calendar year 2025 and declaring an emergency.
Ordinance will move to the
President
next.
Shoemaker, I moved to waive the 3-read rule on this one.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dement. The clerk will call the roll relative to the waiver of the 3-read rule.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Yes.
Barnes, Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
The three-read rule is waived. Clerk will now call the roll relative to the ordinance itself.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted. The next ordinance.
Item number 5 is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the new Unified Development Code, UDC, and repealing Part 11, Chapter 1321, and Chapter 1322 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chiillicothe, Ohio, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 713.07 through Section 713.12.
The ordinance will move to the next agenda. If there is no other business to come before City Council, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. McCourt, second by Ms. Dunn. Clerk will call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dement,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Creed.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thanks everyone for attending.